Hello, I'm Nick Garrett, and this is my audience for my informative speech of the history of the Titans.
Hey.
Alright, although some of you may not be football fans, what if I told you your hometown football team is the third best team in their conference and only one loss behind the first place team? Just make you want to know a little bit more about the Titans two-tone blue?
Woo! Yeah!
The Tennessee Titans are one of the hottest teams in football, and it would be a shame to miss the run they had the opportunity to go on through December and January. Personally, I am 18 years old and have been a huge fan and follower of the Tennessee Titans since I was about 8 years old. Here are some cleats from a player that used to play for the Titans.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
All right. In this
What player
speech,
was that?
Cortland Finnegan, number 31. In this speech, I will be talking about how the Oilers moved to Tennessee from Houston and became the Titans and what the culture was like once they arrived, and what the franchise has done up until this point. First of all, you may need to know the Titans are 8-4 coming off a tough loss to a good team. But let's ignore that and take a look at the past. In 1997, the Oilers became the first NFL team to call Tennessee their home. The Tennessee Titans story begins in the city of Houston, where they were a team that had lots of historic runs, and historic players play for the team, known as the Oilers. The Oilers team was run by a man named Bud Adams, who was not anyone's favorite owner by any means. Once 1994 came around, this historic team began to fall apart. And Bud wanted to turn this franchise around, but not in the way Houston Oilers fans expected it. In 1994, the Houston Oilers finished the season 2-14 as the owner, Bud Adams, began to put his plan into motion. In 1995, NFL owners approved the move. The Oilers were leaving Houston, and it was the final stab in the back for the city after years of choking and self-destruction. Bud Adams was committing the final betrayal. Not only did Bud begin this move that would ultimately turn all of Houston against him, but he did also with 2 seasons left on their lease in Houston. Whilst Houston struggled to bring in more than 20,000 fans a game, Nashville, Tennessee was ready for a football team. Phil Bredesen, the governor at the time, wanted to make Nashville more vibrant and felt like a football team would do just that. The Oilers' move to Tennessee was a bit premature. The stadium was still being built when the team became a part of Tennessee, and with Bud Adams declining the option to play at Vanderbilt Stadium because it was too small, declining the option to play at Knoxville Stadium because it was pretty much too big, he chose Memphis, which was okay. They had a stadium that was good to do this. They had plenty of seats, plenty of everything. The only problem was, only 2 years prior, Memphis had lost the race to have an NFL team be placed in their city by second place. So what does Bud Adams do? He puts an NFL team in their city temporarily. While a lot of fans were either on the ropes about this and didn't really care about the team, or they just wanted to support him before they left for Nashville, it was sort of a split, controversial decision. So after about a year, since attendance was pretty low at the Memphis games, he ended up moving to Vanderbilt Stadium, where there wasn't as many seats, but he didn't really need that many seats. And then finally, in 1999, the Tennessee Titans were born. And the city of Nashville got the team that they'd been waiting for. Not only that, but this team was special. With the great Steve McNair at quarterback, the brute Eddie George at running back, and the freak Javon Curse all leading the team in a 13-3 season and a Super Bowl appearance. Sadly, the Titans were 1 yard short of the Lombardi Trophy being placed in the Music City. After the 1999 season ended and the Super Bowl loss, the Titans remained sort of consistent, returning to the playoffs 8 times in the past 22 years. This does not seem impressive at all, but having 14 different starting quarterbacks throughout that time is a tough obstacle to overcome. Whilst Bud Adams was not loved by everyone in Tennessee, Nashville appreciated him for bringing a team to their city, and a winning team for that matter. He was not the best owner due to the fact that he just sort of looked for the next Peyton Manning to win him a Super Bowl every year, but he found something in Vince Young, who led the Titans to an AFC championship in 2008. After the AFC championship loss in 2008, the team sort of started to fall apart. With head coach Jeff Fisher and Vince Young butting heads and the team's success declining at a rapid rate, the team fell into mediocrity. As the Titans attempted to draft players who could make a difference, they just never found a player that could truly start the rebuilding process. Sadly, in 2015, Bud Adams passed away and passed the reins of the Titans ownership to his daughter, Amy Adams Strunk. And Titans fans were not sure if this was a good or bad thing. That same 2015 season gave Titans some sort of hope when the Titans drafted star quarterback Marcus Mariota out of Oregon, who seemed to have the possibility to turn this franchise around. Marcus would lead the team to a 13-3 record and had some work to do in the next coming years, but it felt like a fresh start for the team overall. In January of 2016, the Titans hired John Robinson to be the general manager of the team and try and make something of this roster that had lots of potential. Marcus would ultimately lose his starting job and join just to a man by the name of Ryan Tannehill, and this team has had an entirely new identity ever since. As stated by the Titans themselves, all those changes translated to success on the field as the Titans went from a 3-win team in 2015 to just five consecutive winning seasons, a playoff berth in 3 of the last 5 years, a trip to the AFC Championship game in 2019, and a division title in 2020. Now that you know how the Titans came to be, such as how they left Houston to call Nashville, Tennessee their home, led the team to a Super Bowl, their first full season in the Music City, and have overcome recent struggles and brought winning football back to Nashville, do me a favor the next time you're not busy on a Sunday, turn your TV to Titans football and cheer on the two-tone blue. Tighten up!
Woo!
Yep.